This happened about 2 months ago. I had just come off a long, exhausting shift at the ER. I was tired and ready for some quiet time at home. My apartment was simple, an old brick building in my urban neighborhood. I thought it would be a good spot to unwind. But then things got strange. I settled on my couch. The TV's glow filled the room with light. I tried to focus on the movie, but I heard a soft tapping sound. It was almost like fingers brushing against the glass of my window. I figured it was just the branches from the big oak outside swaying in the wind. It didn't seem alarming. The next night, after another long shift, the tapping was back. This time it felt louder, almost urgent. I glanced at the window, but all I could see was darkness. I brushed it off, thinking I was just tired. I turned up the volume on the TV, trying to block it out. But the tapping didn't stop. Sometimes, I heard muffled footsteps outside my door as if someone was lurking. My heart raced when I noticed, but I was also exhausted. I thought maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Life was busy. Stress was getting to me. Each night, the shadows outside grew bolder. I saw them flit past the windows, shapes that shouldn't be there. I kept asking myself, what if someone was watching me? The thought made me feel sick. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. Nothing terrible could happen here. But I started feeling anxious all the time. One evening, I decided to turn off the lights and just relax. I barely got through the first part of my movie when I noticed a figure cross the window. Just a quick blur. My pulse quickened. I darted to the window and pulled the curtain aside. But no one was there. I felt trapped in my own home. Unsure of what was real, I wanted to shake these feelings away. But it was hard. Was someone really watching me? Or was it all in my head? Felt like a battle between reality and my sanity. I couldn't tell who was winning. Then came the evening when there was a definitive knock on my door. I froze, my breath hitching. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole, but the hallway was empty. I waited, listening. The knocking came again, louder this time. My heart raced as I hesitated. Unsure if I wanted to find out who or what was on the other side, I stood there, feeling cold sweat run down my back. I wanted to call out, but my voice wouldn't come. What if it was someone dangerous? A small part of me thought I should open the door. But I didn't move. The knocking echoed in my ears. Then it stopped. I listened hard, but silence filled the hallway. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Had they gone? Or were they still there, waiting? I waited, heart pounding, listening for any sound that might indicate movement. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Just when I thought it was safe, I heard a soft shuffle from the hallway, then another cautious knock. Each sound sent icy chills down my spine. I took a deep breath and mustered the courage to look through the peephole again. My hands trembled as I pressed my eye against the cold glass. This time I saw a silhouette tall and shadowy. I couldn't make out any features, but my gut twisted with fear. Hello? I finally managed to call out, my voice shaky. There was no response, just an eerie silence that filled the space. I was about to retreat when I noticed the figure lean in closer, as if trying to peek back. Panic shot through me, and I quickly stepped away from the door. The figure didn't knock again, but I heard a muttered whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone sent a jolt of terror through me. It felt wrong, like they wanted to say something meant to unnerve me. I frantically looked around my small apartment, searching for something I could use as a weapon. Just then, my phone buzzed on the couch, breaking the silence. I dashed back to grab it, hands trembling as I checked the notifications. A message from a friend popped up. Everything okay? Heard about the break-ins in the neighborhood. Stay safe. My stomach dropped. Break-ins? It was all too much. That whisper, the figure in the hallway, I suddenly felt like I was being hunted. Glancing back at the door, I realized it was slightly ajar. I hadn't left it that way. Before I could process that, a loud crash echoed from my kitchen, shattering the stillness. I froze again. Someone was in my apartment. I was not imagining it anymore. Every instinct warned me to run, but I couldn't move. I needed to know more. I slowly edged toward the kitchen, my heart pounding so loudly, I couldn't hear anything else. I pressed my back against the wall, breath held tight in my throat. That S when I saw it, a flash of movement behind the counter. Panic surged through me, but within that fear, a small part was curious. I leaned forward just enough to see a dark shape hunched down. My stomach twisted into knots. "Show yourself," I shouted, finally finding my voice. Silence followed, heavy and thick. The shape didn't move, but I could see something glinting in its hand. My mind raced with possibilities. What was it? An intruder? A burglar? Then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. The lights above flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped me. I was blinded, trapped in an unseen nightmare. The adrenaline kicked in. I was ready to run, but before I could move, I heard soft footsteps creeping toward me from the darkness. Someone was in the house. My breath came in sharp gasps as I braced for whatever was coming next. The footsteps grew louder, slow and deliberate, inching toward where I stood pressed against the wall. My body felt heavy with dread, as if the weight of the darkness had pinned me in place. I swallowed hard and strained my ears, trying to catch any sound that might give me a clue about who or what was approaching. Then, a whisper broke through the silence. "I know you're here," the voice murmured, sending a chill straight to my bones. It was low and menacing, like a predator stalking its prey. I turned in the direction of the sound, heart racing, eyes desperately searching for something, anything that could help me escape. Suddenly, I felt the unmistakable sensation of cold air brushing against my cheek. The window in the kitchen was ajar. Had someone come through there? My mind raced with scenarios, but I had to focus. I blinked into the darkness, trying to create a mental map of the space around me. The footsteps stopped. "Where are you hiding?" The voice called out again, taunting. Panic surged through me, and I instinctively crouched lower, hoping to blend into the shadows. I couldn't stay there. Someone was hunting me, and I had to keep moving. I made a quick decision. I turned toward the living room and scuttled quietly away, trying to avoid any creaky floorboards. I needed to reach my phone to call for help, but I had to be strategic. As I crept into the living room, I felt something cold and metallic under my hand. The coffee table. I picked up the nearest object, a small lamp, and clutched it like a lifeline. I was not going to be defenseless. I just needed to wait for the right moment. From the kitchen, I heard a low chuckle. "You can't hide forever." The voice was mocking, and for a moment, it sent a wave of rage through me. I wasn't going to let fear take over. I had to stand my ground. I took a deep breath and called out, "What do you want?" My voice was steadier than I felt. I was surprised at my own courage, even if it was mostly just fear-driven. "I want to play," came the response, playful yet sinister, like a game I was not willing to take part in. "Come out and let us see who's the better hider." I gripped the lamp tighter. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room in a harsh glow. My heart dropped into my stomach. The figure was standing in the doorway to the kitchen, just a silhouette now. I could finally see him, a face obscured by shadows, but his eyes glinted as they locked onto mine. "Game on," he said, a cruel smile twisting his lips. That I took a step back, my mind racing. I needed to act fast. With every fiber of my being, I felt the need to run, but getting to the door felt like a distant fantasy. Instead, I stood my ground, ready to flee or fight. But before I could decide, he lunged forward. That I swung the lamp, aiming for the shadowy figure, but he dodged with surprising speed. He was on me in an instant, and I felt a cold grip around my wrist. Panic surged. I twisted and struggled against him, but he was too strong. In that moment, I knew I had to escape. I had to find a way out of this nightmare that had crashed into my reality. My heart raced, fueled by desperation. I flexed my fingers, searching for a way to break free, as he pulled me further into the chaos of my own home. And then, as if the world had aligned in my favor, I spotted the door to the balcony. My way out. I couldn't give up now. I made my move. With all my strength, I twisted my body away from his grasp, desperate to break free. My pulse pounded in my ears as I lunged for the balcony door, pushing through the fear that threatened to drown me. He was right behind me, his breath hot against my neck. I reached the door just as he yanked my arm, pulling me back. My whole body screamed in protest, but the metal doorknob was strong beneath my palm. I flung the door open and stumbled onto the balcony, the cold night air biting at my skin. I could hear his footsteps thundering behind me. "You can't run away." His taunt echoed in the chilly air, and a wave of adrenaline surged through me. I hadn't thought about where to go next. I stood on the edge, searching for a way out, while he kept coming closer. The balcony was narrow, with only a few feet separating me from the drop below. I took a deep breath and glanced to my right. The neighboring balcony. It was a risk, but it was my only option. I could see the railing, a thin line between safety and danger. I sprinted to the side, but just as I reached for the railing, I felt a hand grip my shoulder. I spun, swinging the lamp wildly. The sound of shattering glass erupted as the lamp hit against the wall and broke. My heart raced, but I couldn't think about it. I pushed away, slipping from his grasp as I launched myself towards the neighboring balcony. I barely made it, my fingers curling around the edge as I hoisted myself up. I dared not look back. I just pulled myself over the railing, landing hard on the other side. The metallic taste of fear lingered in my mouth as I crouched low, pressing my back against the brick wall, heart hammering against my ribs. My escape was far from over. I needed to find a way to alert someone, to get help. I took a moment to catch my breath, scanning the darkened windows of the neighboring house. The place looked quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, I heard a voice. "What's going on?" A woman's worried tone came from inside. It was faint, but I had to try. I knocked on the door, frantic and desperate, praying someone inside could hear me. "Help! Please, let me in. There's someone after me." Silence. My heart dropped. I knocked again, louder this time, but the sound echoed back to me, mocking my fear. Just as I began to feel the weight of despair creeping in, I noticed movement inside. A small shadow moved toward the window, then the door creaked open. What's happening? The woman's eyes were wide with fear, glancing past me to the empty balcony. "Please, I need to get inside," I urged her, glancing over my shoulder. No sign of him yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. As she hesitated, I heard a sound behind me, heavy footsteps on the balcony. My stomach dropped. "Yes, coming," I shouted, urgency clear in my voice. The woman's eyes widened, and she stepped aside, allowing me to rush inside. I scrambled in and she quickly shut the door behind us, locking it tight. Safe for now. But as I leaned against the door, gasping for breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of the nightmare. Not only was I being hunted, but there was something else, something I had yet to discover that would change everything. The room was dim, and I could feel the woman's gaze drilling into me. I tried to catch my breath, but the panic clawed at my throat. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know," I stammered. "But he was chasing me. I think he wants to hurt me." I glanced back at the door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. She swallowed hard, moving further into the living room. "You should call the police," she suggested, her voice steadying. "Yeah, right," I muttered. "If he finds me here, it won't matter." My mind raced. I couldn't let him in. He could be anywhere. "Do you have a phone?" I asked, barely keeping the fear at bay. She nodded, grabbing her phone from a nearby table. As she dialed, I scanned the room for anything I could use to defend myself. A lamp? A picture frame? "Hello? Yes, I need to report someone," she said, her voice strained. I wasn't listening. Instead, I stepped closer to the window, looking out into the night. The street was empty, eerily quiet. My heart pounded louder than ever, drowning out the sound of her voice. I could see the edges of my own shadow, and for a moment, I was afraid it wasn't just mine. I yearned to run, to escape this house, but where would I go? "Stay away from the windows," she whispered urgently, hanging up her phone. "They're on their way, but we need to." Before she could finish her sentence, a loud bang reverberated from the front door. My breath caught in my throat. I turned, my heart pounding in rhythm with the noise. "Did you hear that?" I asked, feeling the hairs on my arms stand at attention. Yeah, she said, her face pale. Came from the front. Crack. Another hit, a second one followed. It sounded like he was trying to break in. My hands felt clammy, fingers trembling as I scanned the room, searching for options. Quick! Let us move, I said, grabbing her wrist. She hesitated, looking back at the door, clearly terrified. Trust me, we don't want to stay here. She nodded, and together we dashed toward the back of the house. A quick glance over my shoulder showed me the door splintering under his force. I pushed through to the kitchen, looking for any way out. Out of nowhere, I noticed a sliding glass door. My heart quickened with hope. This way, I gestured, pulling her toward it with urgency. As we reached the door, I pushed it open, the cold air washing over us like a wave of relief. Let us go, I urged, stepping out into the yard. The sound of wood cracking echoed behind us. The door couldn't hold him for much longer. But as I looked around, my hope faded. The yard was enclosed by tall hedges, and the only way out would be through the front. We were trapped. That S when I saw it, she whispered, pointing towards the side of the house. There's a fence leading to the alley. I nodded, scanning the perimeter. I took a deep breath, ready to sprint. My heart raced, each second felt monumental. We have to move now. As we dashed toward the fence, a sudden silence gripped the air. The kind of silence that warned of danger. My gut twisted. Just then I froze. A dark figure emerged at the corner of the house, and my blood ran cold. Run! I screamed, adrenaline spiking as we bolted toward the fence, terror clawing up my spine. The nightmare wasn't over, it was about to get much worse. We sprinted toward the fence, my heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything but its chaotic thud. The figure loomed closer, and fear snatched my breath away. I had never believed I'd actually live through something like this. Come on, faster, I urged, my legs pushing harder against the ground. The fence loomed before us, a barrier that felt both hopeful and forbidding. My hands grasped the rough wood, pulling myself up as swiftly as I could. I heard a grunt behind us, a sound that sent chills down my spine. He was coming. I made it over the slats and landed hard but didn't stop. I grabbed her hand, and we dashed down the narrow alley that extended from the side of the house. Where do we go? She gasped, panic evident in her eyes. I don't know, I admitted, glancing back. My instincts were screaming for us to keep moving. The shadows in the alley swallowed everything, and the fear of what was lurking back there drove me forward. Suddenly, a shout erupted from behind. I know you're out there. The voice was deep and laden with anger. My blood turned to ice. Into the street, I urged, dragging her along. A short distance ahead, I could see the dim light of a street lamp cutting through the darkness. Felt like a beacon of safety, but would we make it? Just a little farther. I yelled, pushing myself harder. I could hear the footsteps gaining behind us, clumsy but relentless. With each step, I felt more exposed. We dashed into the light, and I risked a glance back. He burst out of the alley, his silhouette monstrous against the night. My stomach dropped. Keep running, I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. We sprinted across the road, dodging cars parked along the sidewalks. The street felt deceptively peaceful compared to the chaos around us. I spotted an open cafe several doors down and headed for it. Over there, I pointed. It was empty but offered some semblance of safety. We skidded to a halt at the entrance, and I slammed the door behind us, leaning against it, gasping for air. The din of the night faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the cafe's refrigerator. I turned to face her, panic still flashing in her eyes. What's next? I don't know. We just need to stay quiet, I said, pressing my back against the door. I could hear the echo of my heartbeat, but there was something else too, a noise that didn't belong. Then I realized it. The door rattled, the unmistakable sound of someone trying to push in. They found us, I whispered, my heart racing again. I grabbed her arm, leading her to a dark corner behind the cashier's counter. It was cramped, but I hoped it would hide us. The persistent banging continued, a rhythm that matched my escalating fear. As I crouched down, I caught a glimpse of her face, wide-eyed with fear, a reflection of my own. Just then, the door burst open. In that moment, I felt a chill sweep through me. That S when I saw him, stepped through, his eyes scanning the room like a predator. He wasn't just looking for us. He was savoring the hunt. The cafe was silent aside from the soft hum of the refrigerator, but my ears were tuned to the intruder's movements. He stood just inside the doorway, his towering frame blocking the light. I held my breath, willing my heart to slow down. "Where are you hiding?" he called, his voice smooth, almost taunting. He took a step forward, scanning the room. My body tensed. I thought about the exit at the back of the cafe. If we could just slip through unnoticed, maybe we could get far enough away. "Stay still," I whispered to her, squeezing her hand for reassurance. She nodded slightly, her eyes wide and terrified. He moved deeper into the cafe, and I felt like an animal cornered. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to fight back. But where could we go? Then, just as he turned toward the counter, I noticed a flicker of movement behind him. A cat, dirty and frantic, darted out from behind a stack of boxes. The intruder spun around, a wild look in his eyes as he zeroed in on the sudden noise. "Gotcha," he murmured, drawing closer to the cat. My stomach twisted. I was used to animal instincts overpowering human thought, but this was different. I couldn't let him catch that cat. It would give our position away. "Now," I whispered urgently, nudging her forward toward the back door. We abandoned our hiding spot, racing toward the rear exit as quietly as we could. Just as we reached the door, it creaked loudly. I froze, panic flooding my veins. The intruder whipped back around, eyes narrowing as he spotted us. "Stop!" he shouted, stomping toward us with surprising speed. My heart dropped. There was no time to think. I yanked the door open, stumbling into the alleyway. "Go!" I yelled, pulling her through. The cold air hit us like a wave and propelled us forward. We sprinted down the alley, branches grasping at our clothes and the ground uneven underfoot. "Where now?" she panted, glancing back. The panic etched in her face broke my resolve. The distant sound of footsteps echoed behind us, relentless as ever. "Just keep moving," I pressed, forcing my legs to push harder, the alley stretching out like a dark tunnel. Suddenly, I spotted a doorway on our left. Without thinking, I dragged her toward it. It appeared to lead to a basement, the kind you would find in old buildings. I pushed the door open, and we tumbled inside, slamming it shut behind us. We landed in darkness, the air damp and musty. My eyes struggled to adjust, but the fear of being caught was sharper than the dimness surrounding us. I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow, mirroring mine. A soft thud echoed from the street outside, then another, and I realized he was looking for us again. "What if he finds us here?" she whispered. "I don't know," I admitted, scanning the shadows around us. A staircase led up to the ground floor. I couldn't shake the feeling it would be too easy to get trapped there. Then my eyes landed on something glittering in the corner. I squinted, taking a step closer. It was a small blade, glinting faintly in the low light. That S when I heard it footsteps descending the stairs. I held the blade tightly, my grip trembling. This was turning into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But fear wouldn't take me down without a fight. The footsteps grew louder, and I felt the weight of every heartbeat in my chest. My instincts screamed to bolt back out the door, but there was no way I could risk us being caught again. We were trapped. I pressed my back against the cool, damp wall, hiding the blade behind my leg. "Stay quiet," I breathed, looking at her fierce enough to convey my urgency. She nodded, her eyes wide. The footsteps halted just outside the door at the top of the staircase. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't think to check the basement, that he wouldn't take an extra moment to inspect the hinges for signs of our presence. "Come on, I know you're down here," he called out, his voice echoing in the confined space. "You can't hide for long. I'll find you." I shuddered at his confidence. The way he spoke, it was like a game to him, and he was enjoying every moment. The doorknob rattled. My entire body went stiff, and I tightened my grip on the blade. If he came in here, I would make my stand. No more running. But instead of forcing the door open, he stomped back up the stairs, muttering to himself like he was searching for a clue. Come out, wherever you are. Do you think he has a weapon? She whispered, breaking the silence. I don't know. Just be quiet, I replied, scanning the darkness for any way out. My mind raced, trying to piece together a plan. There had to be something we could use. I glanced around the dim basement, my eyes settling on various tools and crates stacked haphazardly. Among them, a rusty crowbar caught my attention. It might not be ideal, but it was better than nothing. Stay here, I whispered, willing myself to be brave. I edged my way toward the crowbar, moving as silently as I could. A few extra feet could mean the difference between us escaping or getting caught. As I reached for it, a noise from above froze me in my tracks. The door creaked open. A sliver of light spilled into the basement, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air. He was back. Found you, he called, stepping inside. Run, I shouted, my voice frantic. I snatched the crowbar in one fluid motion, but she was already moving. We both darted toward the far wall, the only direction away from him. I could hear his footsteps pounding on the floor as he followed, but adrenaline surged through me. Just then, I spotted a window high above us, barely a glimmer of hope, but the only escape route we had. Up there, I yelled, pointing. We have to climb. She grabbed my arm, nodding fiercely. I pushed her ahead of me, adrenaline sharpening my senses. I launched myself toward the crates, quickly scrambling to create a makeshift step. Come on, come on. With one last push, I managed to haul myself up, and she followed right behind me. But just as I reached for the window, I heard him barreling down toward us again, a low growl in his voice. Not so fast. When everything went dark, the world around me vanished as a heavy shadow loomed over the doorway. I felt my stomach drop, panic coursing through me. We had to get out before it was too late. I snapped back to reality, breathless and confused. The oppressive darkness felt like a weight settling over me, thick and suffocating. I strained to hear anything through the buzzing silence that engulfed us. Where was he? A sudden clatter echoed through the basement, jolting me back into action. Are you okay? I whispered to her, glancing down. She looked frightened, but she held onto the crowbar like it was a lifeline. I think so, she replied, though her trembling voice betrayed her. The darkness around us shifted, and I could see a faint outline of the window above. We had to get there, but the fear of being caught again sent chills down my spine. Just then, I heard footsteps again, but they weren't coming from the stairs this time. They echoed from somewhere deeper in the basement. I turned my head, trying to pinpoint the source. Another sudden clatter made me jump. Find a way out, I urged, scanning the cluttered basement. Panic surged again, but I fought it down. I took a step toward the noise, gripping the crowbar tightly. As I crept forward, I noticed a jagged hole in the wall, just beyond a stack of wooden pallets. It was tight, barely wide enough to squeeze through. Could we fit? There was another noise, metal scraping against metal. I could hear him rummaging through something above us, and it sent my heart racing. He was organizing or searching. Either way, it bought us precious time. Over here, I whispered urgently to her and pointed to the hole. Without waiting for a response, I squeezed through the gap. The cold air hit me as I crawled through, heart hammering. I looked back to see her hesitate. You have to come. Now. She nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. As she scrambled after me, I slid into a cramped space beyond the wall. It was dark, a suffocating silence enveloping me completely. Then I heard a loud crash. Something heavy had fallen in the basement. I felt my breath hitch in fear. He.'s coming, I said, panic creeping back into my voice. I could barely hear her whispers now. What do we do? Keep moving, I urged, desperate to stay silent. The hole opened into a narrow passageway, and I crawled further in, pulling her along behind me. The passage twisted, and I was grateful for the cover of darkness as I tried to slow my breathing. Every noise made my stomach churn. When I saw it. A flicker of light up ahead. I froze again, tension tightening every muscle in my body. Someone was in this space, moving toward us. That way, I hissed, pointing to a side tunnel. We needed to move, and fast. The light grew closer, illuminating the edges of our hidden space. I feared it was him, but I didn't have time to think. I yanked her to the side as the flashlight beam hit the entrance of our passage. Go, I urged, practically pushing her ahead of me. We crawled quickly, adrenaline fueling my movements. The sound of footsteps grew louder in the passage, joining the frantic rhythm of our hearts. I was terrified someone would catch us. Then, there was a voice, a terrifying growl. I know you're down there. You can't escape. I felt the adrenaline spike. We had to find a way out. We couldn't let him catch us again. The chase was on, and my mind raced with options as the shadows closed in around us. I don't know how long we crawled, but eventually, the passage opened up into a larger chamber. The small sliver of hope I had grasped onto grew as we stumbled into an underground space filled with old boxes and broken furniture lit only by faint shafts of moonlight filtering through a dusty window. Where are we? She whispered, her eyes darting around wildly. I didn't have an answer. The air was thick with the smell of damp wood and dust. I could hear the echo of my heartbeat in my ears, and just beyond that, the sound of footsteps again, heavy, deliberate, and too close for comfort. I felt my pulse quicken as fear surged back up within me. We have to find a way out. Maybe there's another exit? I suggested, scanning the cramped room for anything that could lead us to safety as we tiptoed around the clutter. A sudden crash resonated from behind us, back in the tunnel we had crawled through. It had to be him. This way, I urged, grabbing her hand and guiding her toward what looked like a staircase in the corner. Is that safe? She asked, voice trembling. It's better than waiting for him to find us, I replied, already leading the way up. The stairs groaned beneath my weight, and every creak echoed like a scream. I shot a glance back to her. She nodded, determination flashing across her face, and we hurried up, two shadowed figures against the weak light of the moon filtering in through a vent at the top. At the top of the stairs, I hesitated. It opened into a small hallway, eerily quiet and lined with old pictures that seemed to watch us. We crept forward cautiously, tension building until I saw a door at the end of the corridor. Please let it be unlocked, I thought. We reached it together, and my heart raced as I turned the knob. It creaked open, revealing another dark room beyond. Go, I urged her forward before stepping inside myself. This room was dimmer than the last. I fumbled along the wall, searching for a switch, anything to shed light on our surroundings, but found only peeling wallpaper and silence. Then, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind us in the hallway. We need to hide, I hissed, pushing her toward a nearby closet just as the footsteps drew closer. We stuffed ourselves inside and held our breaths, hearts pounding against the wooden frame surrounding us. From our small hiding spot, we could see a sliver of the hallway through a gap in the door. He appeared, stepping into the darkened room, his figure silhouetted against the faint light. He paused, scanning the area, his eyes sharp and dangerous. We're in here, I thought. He'll find us. Suddenly, he leaned closer to the closet door, and I held my breath again, praying he wouldn't hear the rapid thumping of our hearts. I know you're here, he murmured, almost playfully. He stepped back, peering into shadows. Hiding won't help you. Before I could even comprehend what could happen next, a loud crash echoed down the hallway. He turned sharply toward the sound, a moment of distraction I didn't take for granted. Now, run, I gasped, pushing the closet door open as we dashed out, sprinting toward the exit across the room. We burst through the doorway just as he turned back, eyes wide with fury at our escape. You won't get away, he shouted, but we didn't look back. We barreled down another staircase leading toward a back entrance, desperate breaths echoing through the space. Outside, the night air hit us like a cold wave, bringing with it a semblance of clarity. The street was empty, streetlights casting long shadows. Where to now? She panted, eyes darting around. We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere public. That S when I spotted it, a small corner store across the street with a flickering neon sign. There. We'll go there. As we sprinted, I didn't look back. Couldn't. Every step felt like a leap into the unknown. We reached the door and rushed inside, breathless and shaken, frantically scanning the store for anyone who could help. The cashier looked up, confusion lining his face as he noted our disheveled appearance. What happened? We were being chased, I gasped, glancing back at the door as if he would appear any moment. The cashier seemed uncertain, but there was something in my pleading eyes that triggered action. Get in the back, he said and pointed toward the adjoining room. I'll call the cops. We rushed behind the counter into a small office as the cashier dialed. My heart raced like a runaway train. I sank against the wall beside her, trembling. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, his eyes glinting with malice. Within minutes, sirens wailed outside, and relief surged through me. We weren't alone anymore. But just as I felt a sense of safety beginning to wash over me, I caught a glimpse of that darkness lingering beyond the glass door. The footsteps faded into the background, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Even as the police arrived and calmed our fears with their presence, I couldn't shake the lingering dread that the nightmare wasn't truly over, not really. Later that night, as I replayed the events in my mind, there was a dull ache in my chest. Did he really want to harm us? Or was this all a twisted game? I moved those thoughts aside as I left the corner store. But deep down, I still felt the shadows of uncertainty hovering over me, questions that remained unanswered. Only time would tell if the real threat had been caught, or if it was still lurking in the dark.